do it for the farmers and producers and the makers. What we even here for? Occasionally I ask it. I know it's more than struggling, anticipating the casket. Reap what we sow, trying to fill up my basket. Life's a plantation, I self-law and master. Over the plot I've been granted on this planet. Now it's slanted, cause the chosen been supplanted. But if you overstand it, it was spoken. Fractured, but we ain't broken. Even though some would rather play the role of token, we growing. Black through the essence of our presence. We carry the blood of gods, we carry the mind of peasants. Rich black gardens, future look more like Eden. Multiply seeds like the seed banks in Sweden. Rep my planners on plan according to season. Be one code, switching it up is treason. Black power, family what we eat. Either we get fed or we feed. Be one egg.
What's growing on? What's growing on? What is growing on? Welcome back to B1 Ag Daily Bread podcast. I'm John Henry Harris. We also have Farmer Brown EMC. Here at B1 Ag, we focus on agricultural production as it pertains to marketing, health, food, nutrition, education, all for the Black family and for the Black community. Welcome Black to the garden. If you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. If you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. This is a message that Farmer Brown and I are urgently trying to get to our people. If you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. Our food system is challenged right now. Our food system is actually under attack in many ways right now. And we want to make sure that our people, the B1 community, the B1 Ag community, all our loved ones have a seat at the proverbial dinner table. Today, we're going to have on as a special guest again, Brother Leroy Shabazz, who talks about emergency preparedness. Now, a part of that emergency preparedness is also food, making sure that we have food and water in a state of emergency or in case of an emergency situation. There are many different types of emergency situations, but we just need to make sure that we have certain things in place to make sure that our people will be fed and taken care of when these times come. Now, part of this emergency preparedness is having a food hub. Now, for those that don't know, a food hub works closely with small-scale farms and businesses to meet the demands of the buyers, which is you, the people. In the case of an emergency, it's going to be that community that is under that state of emergency. A food hub's main purpose is to help small farmers gain access to the larger market. Now, our Black farmers are underworked. We're underfed. Match made in heaven. We need to really shop with our Black farmers, but we need to have access, and that access, that's the key. So what these food hubs will do and can serve is building our own agricultural economy amongst ourselves, employing our Black farmers, and us utilizing and patronizing their produce. Now, just for a visual aspect, exactly what a food hub looks like, it's very simple. You take the farmers, which are the local and regional producers. You supply that food to the food hubs. They take all the food, distribute it, market it, and give it to the consumers and the wholesale buyers. That, in short, is what the food hub does. In more detail, you have the food hub and you have other distribution points to make sure that the community gets the food necessary during not only an emergency situation, but just in everyday situations. Everybody is aware of the supply chain issues and the shortages going on. This is a very practical answer to localizing our food system and making sure that we have this food available in an emergency, or or whether it's an emergency or not. We can't take for granted that this food is always going to be available. We see the empty shelves in our stores, but also U.S. food banks are already dealing with increased demands from families sidelined by the pandemic and now face a new challenge, which is the surging food prices that are just made worse by the supply chain issues. So today we're going to have Brother Leroy Shabazz back, and we're also going to have Farmer Brown. This is a topic we need to dive deep in today. So our B1A family, let's put the chin straps on. Let's get to it.
First, I just like to say peace to the B1 family. Hope everybody's doing well. We take a lot for granted, family. So right now, 8 out of the 10 U.S. counties with the highest food insecurity rates, 8 out of 10 are at least 60% melanated. And 1 in every 4 melanated American children is affected by hunger. 1 in 4. Of the 10 counties with the highest food insecurity rate, 8 of them have 60% of more melanated families. These are your Chicagos. This is deep down south. This is all of these areas where when we're talking about food hubs, when we're talking about how do we support these local melanated farmers, we really got to have some serious conversations. And once again, we're blessed to have the brother Leroy Shabazz come on and really give us some codified, practical solutions of how to address this. The time is yesterday, family.
Once again, I'm glad to be on the show. Glad to be a part of the B1 Ag community. Let me get right to business here. Okay, let's make sure that we understand the two differences. There's a difference between disaster preparedness and emergency management. Disaster preparedness is when, brothers and sisters, this is what's going to hurt us. Disaster preparedness is when you're doing something to get yourself and your family together, your crew, disaster prepared. You got water, you can have all the stuff you need for your people to hold tight for 3 days, 2 weeks. That's disaster preparedness. You got comfortable stuff, diapers. That's beautiful. Emergency management is when you do stuff for a community.
A clear distinction. There's one thing just being prepared for whatever may happen, but then there's also, okay, once an emergency does happen, how do we manage this?
Okay, again, emergency management is when you deal with a larger network where you know where your water coming from, where your food is coming from, where your resources are, your definite critical resources are. Okay, and so disaster preparedness is like what Black people tend to do with disaster preparedness is like they holding on with what they got until the system comes for them. Emergency management is that we are the system. So that's where I'm coming from. As a student in the Nation of Islam under Minister Louis Farrakhan in 2010, boom, we had to learn emergency management. Now, brothers, if I can segue into what you guys did, if I can go to those slides, Brother Henry. Let's go to one. That's slide 1, okay? Now, as the B1 Ag audience looks at this, right, at a certain point in time, you might want to pause this slide and look at it because this is a disaster continuum slide. It lets you see what's supposed to happen during the disaster. You see that red line right there? Before that red line is the green line, and your preparedness ability is right over there, right? And then there's the disaster. And then there are stages of your recovery from the disaster. Okay, and look down, you see in those items under there, certain things supposed to happen, like search and rescue is a part of the response. Certain things are supposed to happen. And you can look at those things for yourself because this is very important for you to understand that there's a process.
It's all a process. We're going to work through these technical difficulties, family, but as he's getting back on, so I want us to look at this bottom left-hand corner, risk reduction and readiness. When we have this B1 Ag conversation, obviously the Band-Aids, diapers, things of that nature are important, but you'll see the third line item says build community capacity and resilience. A part of that is one of the reasons we have this B1 Ag conversation. We have to have the buy-in of a critical mass of us within the community to see that, okay, there's something to be prepared for. This is why we specifically talk about, first of all, how do we support the already existing Black farmers? Nobody's going to have more of a vested interest in feeding the melanated community than melanated producers. Also, one of the reasons we talk about healthyblackfood.com and learning how to grow your own food, how do we strengthen this network in preparedness? Okay, there is obviously a relationship with your rural producers, your more established farmers, but how do we push this algorithm within the urban areas? How do we make use to some of these distressed properties? How do we make use of some of these apartment complexes? We do know that many apartment complexes, okay, you might not have a balcony, but you're going to have a play space. Many of them are at least going to have a playground. And so, as a community that cares, is this worth planning come spring 2022? We're going to make sure we're going to carve out at least some of this play space for something very serious as food production. This would be box gardens. Maybe you create or figure out some grants or just come together and create high tunnels, low tunnels to be able to produce at least your greens or something that can be produced year round. When we think about plan recovery strategies, so right now, one of the big words, they're playing this little Greek dance with us. And so now we're on Omicron. Absolutely. So they're pushing this Omicron word now. This is looking like a frat party to me. But saying that to say, what are we doing to make sure, just in case this is the big one? Here at B1 Ag, we don't like to stay in this mindset of constantly being worried. But Brother Shabazz is back on here. But we were just touching on, and if you can bring that infographic back up, you were touching on the different stages of this.
Oh, okay. So I got kicked out of I got lost. Are you there?
We're here.
Are you, brother? Okay.
Yeah.
Again, I don't know where I got lost at, brother. I just kind of heard you speaking, and I don't know where I got lost at, disconnected from. Because I heard you speaking to this in a practical way as a producer, as a distributor, and I'm not going to touch on that. Because I want to run through these three sides real quick to talk about the genesis of why we should be buying into this process, right? Again, all I want you to see with this slide that there's a process of a disaster. There's a process. And if we can go to the next slide. That next slide. Okay, now up at the top, you'll see the incidents: rural area fires, severe storm, coastal tsunami. Down at the bottom, you see American slavery. Now, all of those things at the top are very one-time incidents, right? Those incidents can actually be a short-term, intermediate term, and long-term, like weeks, months, and maybe up to a year. But slavery down at the bottom, American slavery lasted 200 years. You know what I'm saying? And it's like if you looked at the first slide, there was no rescue and recovery. There was no psychological help for us. There was none of that. And if we can go to the third slide, we can bring it home even more. The third slide shows you where it was not just one disaster, but it was another disaster after another disaster. It'd be a Jim Crow, black slave. We have never really recovered from that mental loss that we've gotten. I don't want to be so more excited than I need to be. We have never recovered from that mental loss of who we are and from the beginning. And right now, if you see that big thing at the end, that is Operation Warp Speed. That is white supremacy. Like, okay, we're going to shut down this ADOS reality. We're going to shut down. We're going to come with whatever we're going to come with and shut it down and make it to where we don't even want to fight no more. Okay, so with that in mind, that's why we need to understand the difference between disaster preparedness and emergency management. We have been through one disaster after another right now in our past, in our history, but right now we need to be about emergency management. We need to recognize that white supremacy is happening. We need to recognize that there's even divine intervention to get us away from these fools that's taking place right now. And that's where I stress the Cert teams, community emergency response. I don't bring this up as just a out of the closet, out of the bucket somewhere thing. These teams need to be put in place in the communities. And one of the first things that these teams need to do is to, and you can see what a Cert team does in part one of this series, right? And maybe in a little while we'll go specifically over what the Cert team specifically is. But again, let's go to the fact that every Cert team in the community, in these communities that we're trying to get them, need to be food distribution hubs. They need to be connected to Black farmers to get food in, not to give away, but they just need to let the Black farmers know that they can get their products in to the cities or to the communities, and we can get them access out to whoever wants to get them from the communities. Let me start right, because I want time out.
So, brother, Big J, if you can put it back to that first one, and that
yes, sir.
One of those boxes at the bottom, if you can move the banner, is talking about building partnerships and plans for business continuity. A lot of times our people, when we try to bring this conversation up, it comes across as Hotep. It comes across as Chicken Little, the sky's falling. These cats is paranoid, chill out. But, we're not coming from a place of disaster. We're coming from a place of being very practical. This isn't just about preparing for the worst, but it's also when you think about planning for business continuity. If you could go into that a little deeper about how preparing these teams, preparing this system of like-minded individuals, how does this manifest into business after a possible disaster?
Well, and again, let's go again. We're not talking about just some abstract stuff, right? On my YouTube channel, CEFEMAP space news, CEFEMAP space news, right? On the smoking gun sections, I think the third or fourth video, I have a FBI agent, Dr. Tyrone Powers, who was an FBI agent in Cincinnati, and he tried to warn the Black community in Cincinnati that Rick Ross was coming to Cincinnati to set up crack cocaine's connection, right? That man lost his job with the FBI because he tried to warn the community and nobody paid attention. Now you see what the condition of the community is. And the city of Lincoln Heights, which was a Black city, they lost their fire department, they lost their police department. They're a village, if that right now. So here is a Black person trying to warn people who are not paying attention. Okay, now we know, and that's white supremacy that did that. That wasn't no abstract, no situation, right? And I feel, brother, that I have to talk about the three types of causes of disaster. There's natural disasters, which everybody understand what a natural disaster is. There's technological disasters, which is like your chemical spills, your plant refinery explosion or something like that. And then there's intentional or man-made disaster. Intentional or man-made disasters tend to be talked about as war and terrorism. Again, where we at right now, white supremacy is a form of terrorism, and it's whooping us down right now. And they got other stuff coming. That's why we need these Cert teams, because the devil is fighting to keep us down, and at the same time, God has got to beat us up to get us to come up. So again, once we get these disaster teams in that are trained teams that have some basic level of training, where they are not just people running around with their heads cut off, but they are assets and extensions of the first responders and extensions of the system that's supposed to work for us. These teams now become set in the community to where if an emergency happens, they know where the stuff is coming from, where the food, where the water is coming from, right? Now, when there's no need for them, they are actually able to have it where the distribution still comes in, but the distribution is being sold or connected to. Again, if you looked at that first slide that Brother Hen put up with the distribution process, right? That middle component becomes that middle hub component the one before that. That middle hub component becomes, that food hub becomes what the certs are able to now set up on a fluke. On a fluke, certs, community emergency response teams are setting up food hubs for distributions and marketing. They're setting up food hubs because now the black farmers and local regional producers have the ability to get some food to these teams to where they can be sold to consumers or wholesalers who want to take the food and make green beans in cans or whatever larger products. Now I'll hold right there.
So before and after we get done with this piece, I want you to put this back up. So as we were preparing for this show, we were just kind of talking about, some of the people like your Dr. Boyce, your Jay Morrison's, a lot of people who are very knowledgeable when it comes to financing, stock markets, investing, real estate. How important is that group of people when we talk about really putting this practical system together? So obviously here at B1 Ag, our focus is on the melanated black producers. It's focused on getting more people involved on a community level within urban settings on being able to produce their food. But when we think about, and I'm not digressing from what we're talking about, so there was somebody spent $2.4 million buying real estate in the metaverse. That was the record. Metaverse meaning I can't even touch this unless I put some glasses on. But somebody spent a real $2.4 million on real estate in the metaverse. When you talk about the Most High whipping us into shape, okay, we see that other people are willing, instead of breaking bread, reparative justice, giving justice to those who have built this country that haven't gotten it. We'll put this money into the metaverse. And so saying that to say, it's almost like the canary in the cave is saying, hey, y'all ain't no help coming. We do have the means. One of the things we also discussed was I think we both agree that this ain't the end of the world. This is actually a great opportunity for those of us that can, see what's going on. But it's not something where we can just sit back and kind of wait for it to hash out. This is something where all of us, no matter what our skill set is, can build into that simple diagram that we saw creating food hubs. Some of us are good at construction. These sites would have to be built, obviously. Some of us are green thumbs, and so some of us are able to produce the food. Some of us already have CDLs. Some of us are already able to drive and understand logistics. Some of us understand marketing. And so if you could kind of go through that and break down that dynamic of where are the different niches that are needed to make this food hub become a reality. For somebody that's like, okay, yeah, I like the stock market, but I kind of get what y'all are talking about. How do I invest in such a food hub? If you could go into that.
Well, let me, because there was some breakup right here on the internet process, right? So let me address this like this now, real smoothly, hopefully. Again, I talked about the three causes of disaster.
Well, we break through this, family. I hope the family's peeping this. And so we're highly dependent on these computers for communication. I think the brothers going to be back on. Okay.
Where did I get lost at?
You were going into the three types of disasters.
You got none of them?
No, it stopped at three types of disasters.
Okay, so
I was making the point of we got to get this message out quickly. We're highly dependent on these computers and all of these other forms of communication. Once again, this only reinforces the importance of having a Cert team and having a plan just in case all of these things we're used to. So go into it.
From now on, when I do this type of connection, brother, I'm going to be hardwired. Right now, I'm using Wi-Fi, so I think it's best to be hardwired in. Again, there's natural disasters, brother. There's natural disasters, technological disasters, man-made disasters. Now, as Black people and as a student in the Nation of Islam, when I teach this class, when I teach this FEMA course, I teach our people that there's a fourth type of disasters, and that is divine intervention. Divine intervention is a reality. That's where in the scripture it always talks about God steps in and whoops the nation's butt and gets rid of them. You follow what I'm saying? That's real. Okay, so right now, if there's something called divine intervention, and if Black people want to consider themselves as the people who have been in bondage for 400 years and went through something, that means that once we coming out of this bondage stuff after 400 years, we have to man up to be the children who step up to our reality as original people, as God-fearing people. Right now, we stuck in doo-doo land, and we want to run to the metaverse and all that foolishness, man. You know, again, one point I want to make there is that we really need to really see our divinity and the opportunity to show who we are as a divine people who have been through 400 years of trash. And the sisters gonna stop putting all the crazy hair and makeup, and then they're gonna get back to putting some real food on the table and things like that. Now, trying to get closer to what I thought you asked. For example, when you're talking about the distribution process, right, and stocks and this, that, the other, right? For example, I got on FEMAP.news, FEMAP.news is a website. FEMAP.news is a website that I have. FEMAP.news. And in 2015, if you look at the documents on that section on there, document page on there, in 2015, I wrote a report to Minister Farrakhan and a couple of other people, right, about disaster preparedness. And in that report, I came up with this concept or this idea. Where did I get it from? Obviously, scripture, because it's called the Lamb's Blood Disaster Fund. And the Lamb's Blood Disaster Fund went about the process of trying to get people to invest maybe $1 a week for a year into a fund. Now let me, you can go look at what that is. And on that note, brother, not to get off point, there's a sister named Cherry Wallflower that's a part of your audience. She has a degree in emergency management. Sister, when you see this, please get in touch with me, because I don't have no degree. With your degree, I can make what I'm talking about right now much more of a reality. Now, going back to that Lamb's Blood Disaster Fund, let's bring it up to current terms from 2015. If we had a million people, and I'm just throwing the process out here, 1 million people donated. And then it don't even have to be a donation. It can be an investment. Invested $52 into a fund, the Lamb's Blood Disaster Fund. That's $52 million, right? Now we got a fund where we can buy tractors for the black farmers, we can buy equipment for the black farmers, and even out of $52 million, we can put a cannery up down there in the south and a cannery toward the west. Now we got it where black farmers can not only produce, but they can send it to a cannery process, right? And we can now have look at all the stuff that comes from that, you know what I'm saying, as far as economic opportunity. Because I listen to the Fly Nubian Queens, and I know they got a sister that has a distribution company and stuff like that. We got all the stuff we need to make something happen. But what I'm hearing from the network, from this network, for the most part, is that we want to go invest in somebody else's stock. You follow what I'm saying? Instead of investing in the stock of what we actually can come up with ourselves through ourselves. I'm gonna leave that right there.
We think about this job situation, and so I've been getting the emails, hey, report this by this day, your status, or we're not here to disparage anybody's personal decisions, but I think the number was about 70+% of the melanated community isn't with gene therapy. We're not necessarily amiable with some of these ways of addressing we'll call it pandemic. So saying that to say job security is going to be a very real, I'm not going to say going to be, it's a very real dynamic that we can't just gloss over like, okay, we'll worry about it later. This goes back into this being prepared. If you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. You had just touched on the concept of upon just investing in a food hub. And see, because a lot of times we're a divided people. We divide over religion. We divide over what side of the hood you live on, what side of the country you live on, what's your favorite team. Something as simple as food production, distribution, and preparing it. It literally creates millions of jobs. Did you know agriculture alone in North America, and this is mainstream agriculture, there's more than 22 million jobs just within the agricultural sector. This is mainstream. What I know as far as mainstream North American agriculture, there's 35,000 plus jobs a year that don't get filled because people aren't going into this field. This is mainstream. When we think about who are the people that are affected worst by this inadequate or imbalanced food system, it is the melanated family. A lot of the people watching, they know the concept of Neely Fuller and the compensatory code. Part of that code is producing justice to those that need it the most, that need the most help. We know that it's our communities that need the most help. We know that it's our communities that have this high unemployment. It's a fact that we actually had the lowest unemployment went back in 1925. When we actually had higher employment rate than white males. Melanated males in North America had a higher employment rate than white males. And what was going on in the 1920s? This is when your black Wall Streets. This is when your black towns. What was driving these black towns, right? Okay, you got your oil, you got your industry, but what do I have to do every morning before I can get up and engage in any of these activities? What do I have to do every night? And I got a sister, I got somebody whipping it up in the kitchen, making sure this battery keeps going. It is literally securing a food system. I'm lying?
Brother, let me say this again. Last week, the first thing that we did with this series of connections right here is we talked about the three phases of a nation, or we introduced the three phases of a nation. The first phase of a nation is so powerful. It's that agriculture phase of a nation. It's the agricultural phase of a nation. It's the first phase. Then there's a manufacturing and industrial phase, and then there's a knowledge and a technology phase. There's three phases of a nation, right? Right now, we have all the opportunity to get our kids back to the land, to get our kids back to growing something. I just wrangled up several of my younger grandsons.
He's speaking on getting the kids back to the garden. When we think about what are different roles that each of us can play on different levels, some of us, we have 9 to 5, some of us, we don't. Are you back on?
Yeah. So yeah, because the bottom line is that there's such a thing as agricultural black industrial beekeepers. You follow what I'm saying? Who takes bees on a tractor trailer somewhere and drops them off at a farm for a price, and then the bees get to pollinate the plants, come on back to the hive, make honey that the beekeeper can take with him. I mean, it's like, and then not to mention that where clothes come from. This is all the stuff that if we have to go, brother, if we don't deal with our first phase, we can't let people feed us. This is over with. You know what I'm saying? Now, what does that have to do with emergency management, brother Leroy? Again, I am not a minister. I'm here to tell you black people about to get messed up. And when I say that, it's like, I can tell you how people go into FEMA camps. I can tell you, you know what, brother? Anyway, go ahead, brother. I don't want to just give it all right now. I mean, because it's just so much stuff that I'm privy to right now, man, that I just don't. And then I'm in communication right now with some people right now, and I just need to see what's going to happen.
I think the main thing that the whole reason we're doing this series, because this is a mission. This is a ministry. I'm not a minister either. Hen ain't a minister either. All of us come with imperfections, right? But when we think about how do we pay off karmic debt? Those of us that have lived, got our hands soiled with whatever's going on out here. It ain't like our hands are so clean. So, how do we get them back in the dirt of building something? How do we get them back in this soil matrix of rebuilding our communities? And it's preparing ourselves. I'm not one that believes that just everybody's going to come together and hold hands and then disperse and go start growing gardens. Like, I'm not that unrealistic. As optimistic and bright as I see the future, I know that, in biblical text, it's saying just a remnant, 1/3. 1/3. We're trying to take our time, sister, and we can't wait to chop it up with you, Sister Sinclair. There's so many moving pieces, but it's frustrating because one of the brothers said we have all we need. We're just scared to move on it, Brother Phil. And that is the truth. We have all that we need. There is not something that has to come out of space. There's not something that's just going to suddenly come up out of the ground and give us what we need. We already have it. But once again, there's a lot of distractions. There's a lot of distractions going on right now that are, intentionally putting fear into people. And we're not a people of fear. Like you said, our ancestors endured some of the worst hell that a physical body not just the human, any sort of animal. Animals haven't been in slavery outside of the ones in zoos. And so for us to even be on this podcast right now speaking about this, it lends to the resilience of what we come from. And so once again, to the degree that we can refocus this resilience, this genetic predisposition to just know how to feed one another, how to produce it, how to ship it to where it's supposed to go, on top of being able to work these devices. I think about Soulja Boy. There's this rapper, his name is Soulja Boy. I don't know if you know who he is. But it was this thing called MySpace. I'm giving how old we are. There was this social media site called MySpace. And what he did, this is a young man at the time, he figured out how to make all of these different accounts. And basically, he's an independent artist, made millions off of figuring out how to manipulate a digital tool. You know, social media can be something that connects people. Social media is something that you can market. But I'm just using him as an example of ingenuity once it's focused on a specific task. Here at B1 Ag, the case that we're trying to make is to the degree that we can focus on being able to feed one another. How many, and I know you would know this question, how many guns are there in North America? And I guarantee if you got all the black gun clubs together, is no match to the other side. But, you know, personally, I'm definitely a proponent of being armed and protecting yourself. But when we think of this long term, like you said, emergency management, not just the preparation, but management, it's going to have to be more than just defending. We're going to have to be on the offense in some area. What do they say? Business is war. I like to say there's no business like grow business, but that takes the buy-in of the people that eat, the people that right now are dependent on the people that don't like us to feed us.
Just let me add again, I will say, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. Now, we push healthyblackfood.com to help you as an individual learn how to grow your own food. This will help you get prepared, stay prepared. Once your garden is going, you are now well on the way to being and staying prepared for any kind of food shortage. This inflation, food prices are going up tremendously. Even one of my favorite stores, the Dollar Tree, they're going up to $1.25. That's a 25% increase. Although most of us look at $1.25, that's not a lot of money. Compared to $1, that is a 25% increase, which equals 25% inflation. Now, many of us across the country are already paying $3 for a gallon of gas, $3 or better for a gallon of gas. 25% of that, you know, you're looking at, that's another 75 cents. So if you're already paying $2 for a loaf of bread, 25% of that, that's 50 cents. Can you see how this stuff adds up across your total things of you need to buy to survive? So to mitigate these increasing expenses, one practical way is to learn how to do it yourself. Instead of going to the grocery store, go out your back door where you have your garden growing. Instead of going
have certain teams in place that know how to distribute this.
Exactly.
Produced.
Can I?
Now, what we're talking about, this is just for yourself. This is just contained for your home. Now we expand this out to the community, and this is where we're talking about these food hubs. Can I? Communities into the regions, because we want to make sure that we all eat. We all have to eat. And if we don't have steps in place to make sure that we all eat, we're going to eat each other. That's the sad reality. If we don't make sure that we all have a way to eat, people are going to really turn on each other and literally eat each other. Whether it's taking what you have, or they just might literally throw you on the barbecue. Slice it up with that pig butt. So let's be proactive. That's what this is all about, being proactive. Being proactive. It's not about being scared. Ain't no fear in this. There's no fear in preparedness. Matter of fact, when you're prepared, there's no fear. What are you afraid of if you're prepared? What is there to be afraid of when you're prepared? There's no fear in that. There's power. And that's what we want to make sure that we have this power in our own hands, because it was given to us in our own hands. We have the power. Let's use this power to be prepared. And there's no fear when you're prepared.
I'm gonna if I can interject right here. You know, as far as I know, and as far as I've seen, urban farming is on the rise. And a lot of people are trying what you're saying, and that's a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful thing. Of course, we got to get these bigger producers connected to us, the bigger black producers connected to us, right? So let me get back on point with this 25% increase on a 25-cent product and no increase on quality. Interesting. Very good, sis. Very good point. Very good point. Again, for me to get back on point, again, I'm bringing up the Cert teams, right? Because again, as I just said, if we're doing that, if urban farming is increasing, and that's a beautiful thing, then every Cert team, see, I can talk to you about Cert teams, and you can create your own Cert team in your own community, no problem, because I want to get some more information on exercises on that, right? But the thing is, Cert teams that are connected to what I'm trying to push, right, are Cert teams that are going to have gardens. They're going to have some maybe some farm animals or some things like that, some bees, you know what I'm saying? They're going to have that because they want to not just have a Cert team readiness, but they also want to have it where people can bring their kids to see something about bees, something about a garden, where and then at the same time, all the other persons that are black people or whoever that's doing urban farming, right? It creates a dynamic where we can talk to each other, because that's what black people ain't doing right now to a great extent. We're not talking to each other and creating that unity of community, right? Because the whole thing about good food is like when you can sit down to the dinner table and break it up with your family. So again, I'm pushing the Cert teams. This is what I'm pushing, to be in the communities, to help the communities to get ready for what's about to happen on a bigger scale, because those Cert teams will be connected to the system for whatever it's worth. I always say you might have to break out your gat and throw down if the system break down for you. But in the meantime, you got people that are connected to the system. Now, let me throw out a piece of homework for here, because people are going to see this now, and then people are going to see this in the future, right? Now, in this manual, right, it says something about Cert teams, because Cert team is a FEMA program, but it's run by an organization called Citizen Corps. Ain't no goddamn Citizen Corps.
We encourage the family to look up CERT, Community Emergency Response Teams. Once again, when we talk about getting on code, this is something that can be applied wherever
Every city. Am I still there? Can you got me now? Whatever city you in, try to find a Citizen Corps meeting. That's the White Citizen League. You ain't gonna find them. I mean, really, call the emergency management, call the fire department, call the city. Say, I want to go to a Citizen Corps meeting. They supposed to be the people that's running the Cert program and in charge of it, and the Citizens on Patrol and a couple other programs, right? That's exercise number one. The next exercise is call your your county emergency management agency and try to find out where you can take a program, where you can take get the Cert training, community emergency response team training, and see how they respond to you. That's the test, because if they say, like, we don't know what you're talking about, then they just lying to you in your face, and they're not trying to get you connected to a process where you can mitigate for your own community the disasters, where you can know where stuff is coming from. And I did hesitate earlier today, right? You know, a little while ago about saying something, but the Cert program, the Cert program came up out of, it came in 1985 after a great earthquake in Mexico, right? And a lot of people in the Nation of Islam don't even realize this, right? Because the Minister Farrakhan had his greatest vision in reference to meeting with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and the fact that the Reagan administration was prepared to produce war on the black community. That's why you got Oliver North and all. The minister had this vision on September the 17th, 1985. 2 days later, September the 19th, 1985, there was an earthquake that took place, and that earthquake, he says, is what brought the whole vision back to him about what happened, right? Now, because of that earthquake, now see, in the Nation of Islam, we got lessons that say what caused rain, hail, snow, and earthquake. Who makes rain, hail, snow, and earthquake? Well, see, we understand that there's cause and effect there, right? That's why I put so much into the importance of this Cert program, right? Now, out of that Reagan administration comes your Oliver North and the crack cocaine thing. But at the same time, out of that Reagan administration comes this thing called the Emergency Food and Shelter Board program. Now, that program that came out of the Reagan administration at that same time is the program that gets money from FEMA to 5 major organizations, 5 major social service organizations. Don't have to go into the name of them right now. And those organizations distribute money down into the community to the different social service agencies. So you think you getting some food from the church. You think you getting some food from the pantry. You think you getting some food from, you think that your gas and electric bill just got paid by the church. You think your gas and electric bill your water bill just got paid by the community action agency. No, baby. FEMA sent that money down to weigh. We just got weighed on what we capable of doing. And at a certain point in time, when they take the food away, when they close the pantries, we'll be sitting here looking at each other like, what did we do wrong? And what we didn't do wrong is we didn't create a situation where we support our own black farmers and get our own distribution process going to where we can help ourselves. Separation of death is one of the things, major issues that the minister is telling us, and if we don't catch it, well, that's what I'm here for.
Brother Shabazz, this has been a great build, and we got a couple more. But before we get out of here today, here at B1 Ag, we like to have very concise action items. So how can we get our viewers to sign up to get Cert certified? What is a site where we can direct people to?
Well, again, I would say that test is the first thing to do. The test is called the community, try to find out if there's a citizen corps. That's just because you're not going to find them. That's one thing. Just to let you know how they be faking in the game. And then
corps, that's CORPS.
Citizen corps. Okay. But the other thing is you can contact your emergency management agency and ask them about Cert training. You can do a Cert training with anyone. My point and my reality is that we need to understand how to use Cert for our community and make it a B1 Cert program. And that's what I do. You can look on I got a website, cecert.org, and there's some information down at the bottom of that page that'll guide you to the Cert program and what it's about. And you can get in contact with me. Please contact me through any of the medias that I got out there. I'm Leroy at cecert.org or Leroy at femap.news. Leroy at femap.news. And the only reason I say contact me is because I want to give you the best advice I can how to go after this piece, right? Because it's very important that you maintain your integrity for yourself and your community.
Absolutely.
Again, in response, and again, just one more sentence to that, right, is that you don't need me to start a Cert program in your community. You don't need me at all. You follow what I'm saying? If you can find out who the people are from your county emergency management agency that has your Cert program, or your parish that has your Cert program, and you get the training, and then you go create your own team. Then at that point in time, you just got to understand. See, if you don't understand threat assessment, if you don't understand white supremacy, you can have this book and you can go through this book and where it says the causes of disasters and it says technological, natural disasters and man-made or intentional disasters. And if you don't throw white supremacy in there as a part of the intentional disasters, then you lost. You're just going to be where they can call you and say, look, we need you to go watch this this intersection over here. And, matter of fact, I want you to come bring your team over here and help give shots to these folks over here. And you'll say, oh, yes, I'm a Cert team member. Because I tell they call my team for about some shots. Man, get out of here, man. We ain't. Now my team members can go if they want to. You follow what I'm saying? But that's not how we roll. Make sense?
This was definitely a great build, and I look forward to continuing this conversation. I hope the family. We call this Daily Bread podcast for a reason. This is Daily Bread. Like you said, we sit around this table. I don't think any of us have all of the answers. But I think it's enough of us if we contribute what, our life experience has. We don't need degrees, they're fine. But I think whenever we're able to coalesce all of our different areas of activity and experience around a very codified, specific security, well-being, and perpetuity of the melanated family, I feel like we can't go wrong. Once again, we believe it starts with being able to feed yourself. I have to throw the shameless plug, healthyblackfood.com. The concept of that, and once again, this is something we're working with Brother Shabazz on. Brother Shabazz is really, how do we make these classes palatable for our people? As my grandfather would always say, keep it simple, stupid. Everything starts with a seed. Once you planted your seed, there's different types of soil. But, each type of soil is going to have a different way that it has to be watered, has a different way it has to be nurtured. It's going to have different amendments that's going to have to be put in it to make it work. And so our goal is to plant this seed and give the information needed, which is what you're saying about Cert. Yeah, you can go online, you can go to your local cooperative extension office and learn how to grow food, or you can just try your hand in the backyard, which is not bad, it's not good. But when there are people that can, break this down in a palatable way that we can understand, we definitely have to take advantage of these resources, family. We saw the glitches during this podcast. It could be the algorithm going crazy, or it could, like you said, you're on Wi-Fi. But either way, I think it's a reminder that I think we take a lot for granted. My mom always says, act like it's nobody but you and God. Act like it's nobody but you and God. Act like it ain't nothing else out there. And then when you get out of whatever this problem is and you realize, God has this world full of people, great people, great opportunities, then it's that much better. And that's what we mean when we talk about building business. And so literally just preparing ourselves for the worst, we set ourselves up for doing our best. But like you said in the first infographic, there's stages to it. There's preparedness, then there's emergency management. And so I definitely encourage the family to look up Cert. I definitely encourage the family to reach out to Brother Shabazz. He's definitely a blessing to us and our mission. And the brother's accessible. He's not sitting here trying to preach to anybody. He's very practical. He's very realistic. We're not trying to convert anybody one way or the other. We just want to convert you to care about yourself and care about your community. And let's keep building this.
On the other side of that, right? There's some stuff coming. There's some. Y'all think white folks playing, and all white folks ain't in on the trick, but there's some stuff coming.
And here at B1 Ag, we will continue, and we always will continue to push this B1 algorithm. We're going to fight against this algorithm. We're going to fight against not being prepared. We're going to fight against fear. And we're going to fight against them wanting us to be or feel powerless. And we can do this all through food. That's where it all begins, in the garden. So we're getting black to the garden, and we will continue and always will push this B1 algorithm.
Wish pushing the black algorithm. Ancestors, they mastered the systems. We raising your bosses, no victims. Planting that knowledge curriculum. Blessing the roots with the nutrients. The darker the berry, black Nubians. Dropping receipts like I'm Julian. The streets with that food like Peruvian. Trapping the herbs and the fruits and the veggies. CSA boxes, my package is heavy. Ship across down in the bed of my Chevy. Printing them up, growing hard for that baby. If you stay ready, you ain't gotta scramble. Bet on black farmers and growers, no gamble. Reclaiming our pain cause the game is in shambles. Blessed with that melanin, carry the miracle. Mothers and fathers of civilization. Black to the garden with through cultivation. Building back better through black innovation. Be one community, growing the nation. Genetically designed to be the dopest. Open that growth mindset. Codified, now we focus. Farming on back on track. Be the fam, break bread with them. Pushing that B1 algorithm. Now watch me get them, watch me get them. Pushing that B1 algorithm. Be the fam, break bread with them. Pushing that B1 algorithm. Watch me get them, watch me get them. Pushing that B1 algorithm.
Yes, sir. Because I'm on B1 ag.
Now we try to tell y'all, if you got it, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. If you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. So we'd like to thank Brother Leroy Shabazz.
Hey, brother, real quick, brother, that was somebody that we just met from the that was at the All Black National Convention. You know what I'm saying? So we pulling it together. You know what I'm saying? Thank you, brothers, for allowing me to be on here, right? And again, if everybody who we didn't really break down Cert, but go to that first network that we did together and look at the program because it breaks down Cert in a more specific informational manner to you. Thank you, brothers.
And we're gonna have you back because we still need to continue. We need to continue to break this down to make sure that our community realizes there are steps they can actively take to become Cert certified, as well as look at the opportunities that are available in building our own food system to ensure that we are food secure. By building these agricultural food hubs and distribution centers and distribution sites, we can create jobs. And this is helping us outside of an emergency. Because what we don't really it's not really clicking yet, eating every day is an emergency situation, especially when you can't. So we want to make sure that we can, and we can because God gifted us with everything that we need. These hands, that dirt, that sun, and that rain. And his will. And let his will be done. So let's continue to grow. Let's proceed with love. Let's grow this conversation. Like, share, and subscribe. Like it. That takes just a second to like, share, subscribe. We want to thank everyone that's been viewing us on this live broadcast today. You know, they participate in the comment section. There's a lot of knowledge that goes down in that comment section when during the live broadcast of the B1 Ag Daily Bread podcast. A lot of knowledge being exchanged right there in that comment section. And we'd like to thank you for that.
Trying to get in touch with Cherry Wallflower, whoever it is.
Oh, we're gonna make sure we try to reach out to Sister Wallflower. And if you also would like to reach out to us, comments, questions, or whatever, just want to share information, you can always get in contact with us at b1aghiphop@gmail.com. b1aghiphop@gmail.com. Again, this has been B1 Ag, building emergency preparedness teams and agricultural hubs. With featuring once again Brother Leroy Shabazz. It's a friend of the channel, and we got more building to do because we got to make sure that we all can eat. We all have to eat, and we all need to make sure that we have a seat at that proverbial table. And as always, many hands make light work. Many hands make light work. And at the end of the day, Farmer Brown, if they really want to know something, what do the people need to do, bro?
If you really want to know something, let's take the power in our own hands and learn how to grow something.
Power up! Till next time, John Henry Harris. We got Farmer Brian MC. We got brother Leroy Shabazz. Peace.